Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Halftime with K Bizzy. And do we ever have a cool episode to bring to you today? We have Mauisnake joining us. We recorded this at the IEM Krakow, depending on how you say it, wherever you live. I gave you both of them, okay? Krakow, however you want to pronounce it. We sat down on the day of the semifinals at 5:30 a.m. his time and 8:30 a.m. my time. Pretty crazy. Earliest podcast I've ever recorded, so we broke a new record. Thank you, Maui. Yeah, today we kind of just talk a little bit about, him coming up in the scene, some behind the scenes stuff about, what it's like to be an analyst and travel 160 plus days out of the year, to do this job. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. And we also go over a little bit of criticism, that you have to face when you're an analyst. So a lot of good conversation was had today, and maybe we'll have him back on in the future. But if you're new to the platform, I just want to let you guys know we do episodes every single Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern, and we've had plenty of guests on. There's plenty of episodes that would cater to you. I guarantee you'll like a lot of the stuff on this channel if you guys like interviews. But if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like the video and comment down below. Let me know what you thought of it. And subscribe to the channel too and turn on notification bells so you don't miss any future notifications with banger guests like we have today. But that is all we're going to say for the beginning. We're going to cut it here and we'll catch you guys on the outro. Enjoy today's episode with Mauisnake. But tell me, how did you find Counter-Strike and where did the name Mauisnake come from?
Sure. Oh, we're already recording. Okay.
Jump right into
I
it.
yeah, sure. I found Counter-Strike from my school friends back in, well, I guess the first time I ever played it was at a friend's house. I'm pretty sure it was my friend Ryan. His name is Ryan Jennings. His older brother had it on their old CRT, and I remember we were playing it for the first time. And when you look at the buy menu, it said the names of guns. It didn't have images or anything like that. It was just text in 1.6. And so naturally, I see the names of the guns, and it's like pistols, rifles, shotguns, and then it only says machine guns for one gun. And I'm thinking, okay, obviously I want an automatic gun, so I'm gonna go for the machine gun. And so I saved for like 3 rounds to get an M249, and then I'm just like, okay, this game is just kind of whack. I'm dying so many times that I can't even buy a gun. What is this? So I didn't really think about the game for a couple years after that, and then I my friends in school who were my grade, they were like, get on Counter Strike, and I was like, okay, sure. And so I actually I actually bought the orange box instead of CS 1.6, which is what they were playing, and I just wasn't gonna say anything about that. I was playing CS Source, they were playing 1.6,
Yeah.
and then I just kind of met some people online and just yeah, I mean, I was playing back in 2000. I think my Steam account is 2005, so I was 12 years old at that point. So yeah, it was a good time back then.
That's wicked. And the whole part of Counter-Strike where it's like when you're learning how to play, like for me it was a little bit different. I didn't know, like I kind of knew what competitive was when I got into CS:GO, but like I was just ripping deathmatch every day for hours thinking that like this was like a Call of Duty, um I can't think of the word right now. It's too early, but a competitor. I thought it was like a
Yeah, yeah.
competitor to Call of Duty, and I'm like, this is getting pretty fucking old. And then I jumped into competitive, and the whole buy menu thing. I was like, I don't know. I don't even think I should be anywhere close to this game mode. It's kind of hard to
Yeah,
learn at
yeah.
first.
Yeah. It's I mean, the jumping into it is completely different than another game. Actually, I'll correct myself. I got a CS Source box pack, and then I got the orange box. It doesn't matter. It's just the dates and everything like that were hard to remember. But yeah, no, it's a. I mean, jumping into Counter Strike is just a completely unique experience to any other kind of FPS at the time. Like, I mean, yeah, I think I probably touched COD here or there. I mean, I think my first exposure to FPS was probably GoldenEye.
Nice.
Just yeah. I mean, yeah, console stuff in general. I feel like that's kind of the way that most Americans, North Americans go, is just the N64 or the PlayStation experience usually happens before full blown PC.
Absolutely. And when I was doing some, research for this, I found some information that I don't think a lot of people know is that at once upon a time you were studying stats in university because you one day hope to become an NBA analyst, as well as you were also involved
Yep.
in, being involved with your local radio station upon once upon a time as well. So I was kind of wanting to know a little bit more about your life back at that moment of your life and kind of just how you eventually made this shift toward Counter Strike and how you found yourself in the space.
Sure. When I was growing up, I had two targets in mind for what kind of occupation I would have following university. The first was actually computer science. I thought I was going to be a just a programmer for most of my life, but then I kind of started getting a little burnt out on it, I suppose. It wasn't like I did too much. I was taking or college courses when I was in middle school on programming, and it was fine. I just didn't really think I was really in love with it. But then at the same time, a lot of what I was doing in a middle school, high school, actually even down to elementary school was I was doing a lot of media production stuff. Like I was really kind of into editing, but I was also doing on-camera work. I worked with not just one radio station. I worked with probably 3 radio stations
Oh,
before I was 21. I worked with one in the San Francisco Bay Area where I had an on-air segment when I was actually like 12 years old or so. I had
12?
a
Holy shit.
yeah, I was in middle school and there was there's this thing you could look it up. I mean I don't know if there's any history of this stuff, but it was called just this KGO Green Reporter sort of gig where they selected one person, one grade schooler in all of the SF Bay Area based off of submission. If and I submitted a really good one. I mean, the thing is my parents were really adept at understanding what was good and what was bad broadcast stuff. And it's not like they necessarily had the biggest background in these things, but I think in general, growing up in California, and my mother grew up in, I mean, she spent a lot of time in SoCal, just kind of moving around spaces where a lot of people were in the entertainment industry. So it just kind of, I think when you grow up in California in the 90s and 2000s, those are kind of the two industries that people are most interested in is comp sci and entertainment. So my parents were kind of like exposing me quite a bit to both of those when I was pretty young. And obviously moved away from one of those, but kind of moved into the second one in a more unique way. And I guess, yeah. Before this, you caught the bit where was talking about doing stats. I got 2 degrees from Columbia. One was in philosophy, and one was in statistics. And the stats one was kind of just a pivot in a way because I was studying economics and I took these calc courses, these various math courses, and then I hated the economic side. I just thinking, this the supply and the demand, it's not that simple obviously, but I was like, yeah, these I mean, it's just kind of like a very I just didn't really like the future of what it looked like to study econ, even though that was extremely popular at my school. So I just said, okay, I already have all these math credits, and I don't even mind the math part of this. I just don't actually like the economic side of it. So
Hmm.
I did stats. I was really into the NBA for a lot of my life now, and I was looking at trying to work in the league as an analyst. So I even went to the Sloan Sports Analytics Conference in Boston at MIT,
Wow.
and I talked to a handful of. I was talking pretty in depth with a few teams. What was it? I forget what they, but I mean, the ones that I was like, kind of felt like I could get jobs there were the Nets, the Sixers, Clippers, and the Bucks. And
Damn.
it wasn't like these weren't offers, by the way. There was just like connections that just like once they kind of heard what I was about and everything, it just felt like one of them probably would if I put just called these contacts and everything. But the problem is that once I started talking to these guys, I actually realized that the salaries for starting analysts in the NBA was extraordinarily low for living in these kinds of cities. I'm talking
Oh.
like practically. well, actually beneath minimum wage today, basically.
What?
Yeah, yeah, like it was almost insultingly low for the amount of work and effort you would put in. And then I started talking
Wow.
around to more people at this kind of conference, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, I think some of these people probably actually said this just so that there would be less competition for them, but also at the same time they would say things like, "Yeah, the only way you're really going to get promoted because the eventual goal for me would have been be a GM, a general manager of an NBA team, but they said really the only way that's going to happen in your life is like if somebody dies, if the right people
Okay,
die,
buddy.
and then you
Like
could,
what?
yeah, yeah, well, because some of these guys are just holding these positions for a decade, and so you're not really, even through merit, you're probably not gonna actually get that role. So, because what, there's only around
What?
30 teams in the league, and I mean, you could be a great analyst, but then and you'll slowly work up the ranks and slowly make more money, but it's just the amount was so minuscule and un and I'd say luckily, at the same time, I was really getting into Counter-Strike, towards the tail end of college, and then I was just seeing what I was watching these broadcasts, and I was watching them with friends online and everything, and we just kinda felt like there's definitely room to get into the entertainment side of it. I never was super keen on becoming a caster, but I looked at the analyst desk, and I looked at the skill set that I had already having presented things on camera before, and I just thought that there's an amount of professionalism that's missing in this space, even though I find some of these guys rather entertaining, and so I just thought there was a niche to fill.
That's awesome, man. And like first off, like to know that you even got like that close to like just to talk to a couple people from those teams that you listed, like you don't the average person doesn't just get to go and talk to, people that close to a team like that. That's pretty damn cool. And to see where you're at now, knowing all of this history behind you, like it's kind of crazy that, Counter Strike was completely off course. Like, that's so minuscule compared to the NBA, but like you still kind of ended up doing what have always done,
I mean, yeah,
in a
I
way.
think it kind of all came back full circle, which was nice. The NBA opportunities were probably even I thought they were actually in a way also coming full circle because when I was young, I did a lot of computer programming. To be an NBA analyst, you would have to do a lot of computer programming, working through spreadsheets of players, trying to find the inefficiencies in order to just pick out the rosters that you would think actually would put something on paper or put something on the floor. And yeah, I guess it kind of came out in a different way. I guess it was almost by luck that when I heard what the starting salaries were, they were so low. I'll just even give people context on this. Like I think the listed salary for one of these jobs from the beginning annually was $37,000. And I mean, for the amount of work you're doing, you are, because you're working more than just 9 to 5 clocking in and out if you want to be really good at it. It's almost it kind of the way I would relate it, I guess, is that if you really want to be great at those kinds of things and you really want to work your way up the ladder, I mean, the room for making more money is great, and so there is a lot of upward potential, but you just seemed kind of capped. And for in general, I just thought 2 years of making that, 3 years making that before I get any kind of promotion it just wasn't the most appealing.
For sure. Like it just sounds like another classic, especially in today's day and age. The employer is trying to get the most while spending the least, and just
It's a passion run industry. So a lot of people are gonna just they're gonna just do it because they dream of being higher up in these sort of organizations. But I almost think it was lucky that it wasn't, say, the Warriors that talked to me because I probably would have taken the passion tax, and because I'm a Warriors diehard. And so I
okay.
probably, if I would have been able to move back to the Bay Area, make just ends meet barely. Honestly, I don't even know how you could survive on that money in San Francisco today. I think you would actually be just out of you'd have to commute like 2 hours or something like that every day just
Yeah.
to find housing that even makes sense. But yeah, I don't. I just think almost it's fortunate in some ways that it worked out the way it did.
For sure. And I was listening to an interview that you did with Sam, or Tech Girl, as some people may know her
Oh
as,
yeah.
and shout out to her. Really, really awesome listen. Um, you know, you were talking about how you wanted to come out of the gate and have some really interesting aspects on what you're going to bring to the desk when it comes to like an intermission. And, it sounded kind of like you wanted to, I don't want to say trigger people, but you wanted to say things that sparked conversation and got people talking, which, depending on how you look at it, is healthy for Counter Strike because a lot of people have voices in the scene. We all know that every time Counter Strike makes a patch note, tweet,
Yeah.
you look at those comments. Like a lot of people love to talk. So I was wondering if you could kind of tell me about your first events as like an analyst and working at the desk and how you kind of approached all of that.
Yeah, the guy that always stood out to me when I was watching esports desks in general, because I was watching a lot of Dota and I was watching a lot of Counter-Strike when I was in college. The clear guy that stood out the most to me, and I thought, okay, this would be someone to lightly model myself after, was Thorin. And so just by also chance, and he saw a lot of my work back in, I want to say 2017, and I worked with him as his research assistant. He for some reason just came into like some extra sponsor money. I forgot what the company was exactly, but he then took on a couple. He sent out he had like an open application that was just anybody that wants to be my research assistant and maybe become my mentee, then apply here. And I had already done one podcast with him because I had a YouTube channel going. I made some content on player profiles and demos, and I also sometimes had some slightly edgier tweets, and so he hired me. And so fast forward 2 years, in 2019, I'm doing like tier 2 online broadcasts. I'm competing at the tier 2 level in North America. He messages me and says that he has an opportunity in Moscow, Russia, at Epicenter, which is a now defunct tournament, but was a really cool one. That is they need an analyst, and so thankfully I jumped. It was actually at a crazy time because I told my parents at that time, give me three years out of college to really pursue this, and if I'm not something by then I'm gonna just start applying for stuff. And I had already started applying for multiple consulting groups. I think I did like a plyometrics test for Boston Consulting Group. I definitely just I did not know what they wanted on these things at all. So I'm glad I didn't. And I also actually got rejected by Boston Consulting.
Oh,
But I was in the process of applying for maybe 10 banks and consulting groups, and I was also ready to maybe even just look back at applying for grad school or something like that. It was yeah.
damn.
So it came at the perfect time, really, because that 3 years was just ending pretty much. And then yeah, I got hired for Epicenter, and then I just hit the ground running in some ways. In some ways, I'm not going to say I was nearly as polished. I was probably 40% the presenter that I am today, but I felt like the content of what I said was pretty strong and unique. I mean, I still remember looking back at some of my segments. I mean, I compared, say, Stanislaw to being an emotionally unavailable boyfriend on maybe my second desk. I mean, it's just I think you just got to make sure that you connect with the audience in some way and just say something that is at least a little it will make them turn their heads. You can't just be going through the motions, rehashing the narratives that everybody's presented in the months, years prior, or else you're just going to sound like uh, kind of a faceless talking head. So I wanted to make sure that I had at least some of my personality injected into the broadcast.
And that's a great way to do it too, because especially if you're getting your foot, I wouldn't even say your foot in the door, like you open the door and you are in the building now. Now you have to prove yourself because if you're not good, no one's gonna hire you back. So I get where you're coming from, and I know a lot of people get pissed off with, takes that especially an analyst has, but the whole job of an analyst is to analyze. I know that might be crazy for some people to wrap their head around, but I think the interesting part of it is putting your own little twist onto things because that could kind of trigger some people, especially like a Stanislaw fan hearing that would probably go, "What the fuck this guy." So
Yeah, exactly.
even like I had Blatt on shit, it had to have been about a year ago now, and his whole thing, I forget the name of the girl that crashed out on him at the desk. That
Oh
was
yeah.
like, holy fuck,
Yep.
that's so funny.
Hmm.
And he didn't even really say anything bad, really. Like, let's be real. But
Right.
like those are the kind of things that you have to quote unquote worry about. If it's not the person that's sitting beside you, it's going to be the people online, and the people online are much louder, I think, because there's so many more, right? So I'm curious to know a bit about like facing community criticism, and do you ever have to kind of like put a muzzle on yourself and not talk about certain things or not say certain things to trigger an audience, like the whole kristou thing?
That's a good one. I Yeah, that was pretty funny. I just feel like it's not a wise choice in this space to consistently throw out vitriolic statements because then you're everybody's enemy. It's not that I'm trying to ever side myself in somebody's corner because I'm not trying to pin myself as being completely biased or that there's extreme favoritism, but it's just that I think if you're I guess the way I would put it is in twofold. One is that yeah, you can't just criticize everything all the time, every single second. I mean, kind of to be honest, that's kind of what my co-stream is for. I'm pretty harsher on there because I know a lot of those comments are just passing. You just say something about like, oh, what the hell is he doing there? But it's not like I'm gonna go on a desk and really ream a guy for a single mistake that he had on a single round. But that's why co-streaming, for example, is fun because I can just let loose on every single thought that I have, as opposed to on a desk. I need to center myself after a match, think, okay, let's think about map one, map two, map three. Well, even though Sun Pius may have ended with a bad, actually, Sun Pius was bad recently, so that's not a good example. But like somebody like Mobs, for example, well, Mobs had some really great moments, but he also sprinkled in a couple poor ones. I wouldn't just say this was an abject failure from him in particular. So I think the knee jerk reaction is you remember some of those negative aspects. I think that's kind of typical for an analyst, but you're not trying to just, oh, you're trying to still be holistic about your approach to every single player. It would just be too toxic to just jump on everything. And I think some analysts learn that the hard way,
Hmm.
where they decide that they want to go really far hard in on just a team that they just don't really vibe with their style. But if that team keeps winning and you still hold out for them, then eventually people are just going to tune you out completely because there's no real substance to what you're saying. If you're saying, I think this is an also common trap that some analysts, critics, even just fans fall in. It's like, well, we're not going to be an era. It's like not every team. There's only like one era per 3 years, so
Yeah,
it's not. Yeah, and with the way CS works, everybody has so many opportunities to win tournaments that you're kind of just being unjust if you say this one team will never win anything, but they're a top 5 team. It's like the likelihood they do win something and then you look dumb is too high.
yeah.
So it's not that I'm putting a muzzle, but I think just the precision with grading a team needs to be there, or if you just sound like you're too much of a flamethrower, eventually people are just gonna realize they're just gonna turn you off.
For sure, and rightfully so. I mean, it seems like a really fine line to have to dance because, like, almost anything you say, even if it's good, if you're, I don't know, I'm just pulling a name out of a hat because you just brought him up, but Mobs, even if you talk about like a crazy Mobs Deagle clip, there's gonna be someone out there that somehow dissects what you say and is like, why would he say that? Like, what did it, you'd
Yeah.
have some type of criticism. And I had a bunch of, screenshots of stuff people were saying about you on the internet. Like some of these people are brutal,
Sure.
bro. Some of them are
Yeah,
brutal.
sure. What,
And
you could lay it on me. I mean, I think
you want to hear
at
it?
this point it's fun. At this point it's more fun than anything.
I'll read a I'll read a couple of them out here. Um, he has the tone of a stuck-up valley girl and can't go 10 seconds without criticizing someone.
I don't
Oh,
I don't know where the Valley Girl one comes from exactly because I guess the problem is that my crutch word is like. So if I ever find myself on especially days that I'm really tired or haven't eaten anything, I'll say that a little bit more. I say that every broadcast talent has some crutch word, and it's just that
yeah.
like is so heavily associated, especially given that my brand is kind of like there it is. It's just is more associated with California and Hawaii, and so it makes sense. And I guess the accent is more West Coast leaning, so sure whatever. It's
It is
fine.
what it
It's fine.
is.
It is. It's fine. I have seen the Valley Girl one before though.
Or this is the last one. We'll keep it moving, but Every time I see Maui comment on anything, he just sounds like a basic Redditor with an IQ of a rock. Like,
Yeah, another good one. Another good one. At the end of the day, we all are just Redditors, aren't we? Just all looking for upvotes. We're all looking for our own metaphorical up.
So the last point I want to touch on before we continue is like if you go to make, an analyzation of a certain player or something, and maybe it's not the most positive one, maybe they had a poor performance across a, 3 map series or whatever. Do you ever hear from a player? Like, do they ever reach out and be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, for real?"
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a few of
You don't have to name drop, of course, but
no, I wouldn't, but I have a few people from top teams, I would say multiple teams that are in the top 10. Mostly, I'd say mostly IGLs, but sometimes individual players that reach out regarding, and it's almost that they come back for clarification on what I was talking about.
oh wow.
That's more aspects of their team. And if I say something that didn't look good about their team and then they want to explain their side to me, I actually always appreciate it. Because I don't ever feel like my criticism is unjust or unfounded because it's based off of watching games astutely enough where I'm confident enough in what I see that if they have something to add on as to why something happened. I mean, I've had top IGLs come to me before and say, by the way, that thing you were praising a player on my team for, I told him exactly to do that at that exact time. So
Oh
they
wow.
they come to me and even try to take some credit, and I'm not. It's interesting. So some of them care more about the broadcast. Some of them don't seem to mind at all. I feel like the ones that are more from, let's say, countries that don't their fan bases don't speak English at all, don't really seem to care or try to justify much to me because I don't feel like they get much flack for what happens on the English broadcast. But the ones that are more from an international or just an English speaking place, yeah, they're more likely to shoot something back to me.
For sure. Did Christo ever hit you back
No,
up after that?
no, no. I think the criticism I had for him also was just veiled enough, just barely veiled enough that I was using an analogy or what
With Curtis.
for yeah, with Curtis, not a real person, by the way. Curtis, not a real person. So
That
had to soften the blow.
that sucks, man. Because when me and my buddies were watching that, and we clipped it, and we just send it to each other randomly from time to time, just to give each other a laugh. Like that was the fucking funniest thing I might have ever seen at a desk. That sucks. I thought Curtis was real. He's not even a real person. Damn.
Yeah, that's the deep lore on it. I just had to come up with something that I wasn't just saying Christo was absolutely abominable on that
I
performance.
haven't thought of Curtis in 15 years. Oh my. Okay. Anyways. Um, I couldn't find the tweet. Maybe it was someone else, but I'm pretty sure it was you. And you talked about the whole traveling and being on the road for 250 plus days of 2025. What if it's not 250 days? And if it wasn't your tweet, it's probably pretty similar for you as you're pretty much always on the go. I just think it's really remarkable how much like, players and everybody involved with esports is just like constantly going around the world, adjusting to time change, throwing their life away, pretty much their personal life. Like how do you kind of adapt to this type of lifestyle? Because this isn't something anybody could just, jump in and do.
I just looked at mine. I just pulled mine up. I write down most of my broadcast days plus travel days, but that doesn't always cover all the time that I spend away from home. I was away from home for at least 160 days last year.
160. Okay. That's still
At
crazy.
least. I mean, I'm not even counting the time where between events, sometimes I kind of linger in these areas and I just sort of, I mean, obviously I'm not counting vacations either. That's my own
Yeah.
time yeah. So, but for work, yeah, about a little over 160 days last year. Um,
Crazy.
I, yeah, I mean, I think that it was a lot easier in the beginning when I think frankly put, I think it's a lot easier when you're single. I
Yeah.
think it's a lot easier when you're single, but now I have a girlfriend that I live in this house with, getting the ring and everything together. So It's just
Oh,
a matter of time for that one. But it's yeah, I mean, it's definitely it, it's not for everybody. Clearly, there's some people, some there's at least one talent. I won't name names because things are personal to different people.
yeah,
But
yeah.
he he decided to pull himself away out of talent work and be extremely selective with events that he works because he just simply does not like it. So he doesn't like being away from home that frequently, and the even if the money and the fame or the the thrill of doing the live broadcast, it just doesn't entice him enough to want to give up the more home based life. I mean, I think that as I get older, because now I mean, my first event was in the December 2019, so been roughly 6 years of doing this. But I also worked in the online era, so I'd say take out 2 of those years, but roughly 4 years of traveling over 100 days a year is yeah, it's pretty it can be pretty taxing. You definitely get used to the long flights, and also I kind of given that I was in high school in Hawaii, and then I was going to college in New York. I was flying back and forth between those two cities a
Oh,
lot and so that's a 10-hour flight from JFK to Honolulu. So I mean, I'm pretty used to the long hauls, and I thankfully just have been gifted with the ability to sleep a lot very
that's
easily
good.
on these planes. Yeah. If I didn't have that, this would have been hell. But I if I'm ever even remotely tired, I can knock out pretty quickly on a plane. I think that's kind of one of the main answers and one of the truths about this, that there's a lot of emotional anguish or toil that a lot of people go through. But for me, it's just like, can you sleep on planes? And if you
Boom.
can, then you're gonna be just fine. But if you can't, then you're gonna be sitting there a lot with your thoughts and how you're just stuck on a plane for the next X amount of hours. So you better learn how to sleep on planes. If that's I'm not condoning substance use if it's illegal in where you are. I personally actually don't take anything. But if that's what gets you there, then just
Gotta do what you
rock
gotta
on.
do. I just think like it needs to be talked about more. Like every time I have someone from the industry on the podcast that travels so much, like you think about, you're barely ever home. Maybe you have a car, maybe you're paying for it, you never get to drive it. If you have a relationship with kids, that sucks.
Yep.
Animals, like your whole life is completely flipped upside down. Like your home
Yeah.
is an airport, you know? It's crazy.
Totally.
I
Totally.
respect a lot of like everybody in the scene that has to deal with that. Like I have a tremendous amount of respect for. Like it's truly crazy stuff.
I'll say things will get a lot harder once I have a kid. I think
Oh
that'll
yeah.
be the breaking point of, okay, I need to find a way, because last year I did 12 events total, and I would love to scale that back at least 30%, but not compromise on my annual earnings. So I'm not looking for TOs to immediately be like, hey, he has a kid, let's pay him more. I need to find alternative revenue streams, which is another reason why if I if I had the time to or the chance to, it not wasn't at so many events, I would just lean really hard into the co-streaming, because the ceiling is insanely high. I mean, there's no ceiling. There's no ceiling on earning. So, and I
100%.
and I arguably enjoy um co-streaming as much as events. I honestly mean that. I think that it's so fun to be engaged with the audience
Yeah.
at all points in time, as opposed to sometimes you're on a desk segment and you say something and you don't really know what the reaction to it was, other than from your co-host. But your co-hosts are so often, they have their headphones in, they're listening to the production saying, "Hey, we're going to move to this now," or there's a lot of stuff that's going on in our ears when we're on these live desks. But as soon as I say anything on a Twitch stream, I get instant feedback. And I also think that what's great is that there's also frequently pushback. I can't, it almost, you can say anything you want, but I'd say that my chat has firm enough feelings about players, and also will just kind of check me on if I misquote something, or if I just kind of misremember something, then somebody will say, no, that wasn't actually this event, that was the other event, because there's just always 30 dudes in there with near perfect memories
Yeah.
of all of these things, and you can verify so many of the claims that are made online, so they're doing it so much quicker than I even.
And I always think of like people like Striker from HLTV, or just like, analysts, or anybody that has to keep keep up with teams and what tournaments they've won and everything. Like I know that it's like your guys' job to be on par and on track with this stuff, but like I can't believe that you guys can like remember so much of this stuff and just, have facts at the top of your head ready to get out. Like there's so much Counter-Strike that gets played all year long. Like it's actually amazing to me. I think it's really cool.
I mostly just try to think about what's going on with the top 20 teams at any point in time, but I'm not also going to sit around and watch a online cup that bait happens to be playing very frequently. If you I think once you get into the flow of it as a professional, you sort of key in on the tier 1 events especially, and you should know everything that happens at those. But if you sprinkle in a little bit of tier 2 gameplay here and there, you just throw it up on your TV as you're making breakfast or whatever. There's always something that's being played. And if you can occasionally check those ones out, then you gain a lot of credibility really quickly.
For sure. And really quickly before we move to the next topic, I just wanted to know like what are some of like the pros and cons about your kind of work? I know we kind of just covered
Okay,
a
yeah.
couple of the cons, but I'm interested to hear about the pros too.
I think that the work is just incredibly satisfying. I feel like the impact that I have in the space is, even though it might not always be concretely felt, it is oftentimes felt through the sort of discourse that still persists based off of topics that I start on. I mean, I feel like there is a little bit of pride every time I see on the HLTV forum sidebar some another person is talking about some player's cultural impact, because I know I 100% started all of those conversations when I made a Zywoo tweet 3 years ago, and it's just continuing. So I love those kinds of moments. Even also the joy that I bring people by just bringing in kind of the funnier points, like the Zywoo air quality stuff. Also from 4 years ago, and still every time Zywoo has a bad game, people are posting screenshots of the air quality
Oh
immediately,
my
and so
god.
that stuff is incredibly satisfying. And I think that the biggest pro is that I'd say on a deeper level, that I feel like in a culture and world that is getting consistently pushed and pulled apart by various forces. I mean, I think that it's no secret that a lot of the big big companies out there kind of want to keep everybody divided by just keeping them in their box, in their home, glued to their screen. That even when they go on those screens, that I can provide some sense of community, even if it means being a lightning rod for any sort of discussion that's happening in the Counter-Strike space. I think that it's too often people are getting just kind of pushed into the nether regions of society, especially online. I mean, there's a lot of unhealthy ways to use your time online. Say boards that are like, I don't even care. I mean, like red pill, like Meninist type boards, or like ones that are like extremist political groups and things like that. I would say every single person that decides instead they want to just throw themselves into Counter Strike for the day and spend their 10 hours at home watching CS, engaging with this stuff, even if they're mad at me, I think that's a much healthier and productive use of their time, as is sports per se, than going to some random image board where they're getting radicalized. So
Yeah.
there's a deep satisfaction just knowing that these conversations are going and that they're gripping enough that people aren't falling through the cracks.
For sure. And like, at the end of the day, with all the toxicity that comes with Counter Strike and all the negative people involved sometimes, like in the community, you can still, especially like going to an event, you can just go and turn to the person beside you and just strike up a conversation and you're going to have a great time? And I think
Yeah.
that's something that needs to be talked about more because the negative aspect of the community gets like so much talk. I think we need to highlight more on the positive aspect because it always people just blow all the negative stuff out of proportion and make it seem like just such a negative space when really it's not. The only reason why we think it's so negative is because we speak about, oh, so and so said this, or oh, look at all these people tweeting all this negative bullshit. Like, if we just stopped giving that so much attention, especially when some
Hmm.
of these people are like default profile picture Andes, I mean, like, who
Yeah.
cares what they say anyway, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I just feel like I mean, I'm not trying to highlight that aspect all the time, that I'm going to broadcast to the world. Hey guys, by the way, I'd rather you be here than be on some radical political board. Like it's just not something that it kind of you get a little disillusioned with it if you just keep force feeding that sort of message to everybody. And so
Yeah.
I'd rather people just get mad at my takes and then just continue to, they can point the finger at me and get a little frustrated because to me it's all harmless fun. I feel like from American sports culture, I think just generally speaking, I think people get kind of mad at those like Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith guys, but it's all just kind of at the end of the day harmless banter. I don't think really there's. I hope maybe I didn't see these, but it does seem like those are just kind of internet trolls getting mad at those sort of guys as opposed to people that are actually wishing ill will upon them as but unfortunately, little tangent. Unfortunately, I think culturally, certain parts of the world that are Counter-Strike fans don't really get the point that like, hey, there's a line you really shouldn't cross when you're getting mad at these pundits, and they frequently do cross those lines, but I also think that's kind of just their way of interfacing with it.
Yeah.
But I just think like, okay, maybe we can cool it on that aspect a little.
I 100% agree. And, the CS scene isn't going anywhere. I mean, as much as people want to say sometimes, oh, the game's dead, no updates. Oh my God, all I care about is skins and, armory passes and case open, blah, blah, blah. The game is nowhere near dead. It's probably thriving more than it ever has been, if you ask me. But nothing lasts forever. So if Counter Strike were to die tomorrow, let's say, what are your next steps? So you think you go back to pursuing maybe a career and being an analyst for the NBA for a team, or what kind of backup plan would you have?
Um, Backup plan would probably be, I mean, I think if Counter-Strike died tomorrow, I would make a show reel of all the work that I did in Counter-Strike, send it to I live in the Sacramento area right now. I'd send it to the Sacramento Kings, and I would say, "Hey, I feel like I could add a lot to your guys' broadcast from day one. Uh, if you want to do a test trial run with me, I'll come into the studio, I'll do whatever you want, and let's work from there." And maybe it's just um, no, I don't think at that point it's unfounded confidence. I mean, I feel like I have enough staying power in this space that I've shown a level of professionalism that would be wanted. So, I would probably just try to pivot to the NBA. I would also, I feel like the Sacramento Kings is the perfect kind of market also where the team is just ass right now. So, like they're probably desperate for anything that'll draw viewers, and so if I make claims about, or if I just show the value that I have, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be a bad gig.
Yeah, hell
And that's
yeah.
kind of what I would go for. I don't know if there's like a really like the safety beyond that is I would probably go to grad school. I'd probably
Okay.
just get like I maybe get an MBA or something like that.
Hell yeah, man. Right on. And do you have any funny stories or experiences over the years that you think that people would find interesting? Because I'm sure with all the traveling and after parties and stuff like that, there has to be some funny stories. Maybe some fans that you run into.
Um, I'm
Anything
trying to
that sticks
think
out?
for funny. Yeah, I'm trying to think because some of this stuff is like about colleagues that definitely shouldn't see the light of
Yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah. No,
So,
not that.
um, I guess what are some decent ones? Damn. I think God, I mean it's hard to really the best stories unfortunately are just ones that I 100% shouldn't reveal, so that's going to take me a second. Um Geez, I'm trying to think of like the majors because I think some of those had some fun stuff around them.
Like, what about
Mm.
Austin? I went to Austin. It was an absolute cinema.
Oh,
That there
okay.
was
Yeah.
should be some good stories from there.
Okay, I wouldn't necessarily say funny, but I think a fun connection that maybe some people appreciate because he's a big creator is that on one of the days of the playoffs or early on, I mean, Nakey Jakey, the YouTuber, made a
Yeah.
really great video on Counter Strike, and he still continues to do Counter Strike related content. I was I saw it on my sub page the night it released that video he made about Counter Strike, and it was, I made a comment pretty early on it. He saw the comment. He followed me on Twitter. I followed him back. He then we kind of were chatting for maybe a month or two in the lead up to Austin, and we made the plan to meet. So we did, and it was just a great experience meeting him, some of his friends at a bar, and just chatting about stuff. And I feel like it's not this is I guess this isn't really a funny story. There's no punchline to this, but it's just that it was one of those moments of him and his friends were getting, they were pretty low elo on Premiere at the time, maybe like 10K or something, and it's fine and everything, but it was just getting to chat with guys that were all kind of getting their feet wet in Counter Strike and just kind of getting their perspective on the space and everything like that. And I feel like it's just really interesting that a guy like him, who made, in my opinion, some of the best video essays on YouTube for maybe a decade leading up to that moment. I really like, for example, his video on why Rockstar game design is outdated. Maybe it's a little bit of a harsh criticism that he had, but I felt like it was an extremely well explained video. And these are all videos that, and he made so many just great videos that I had watched over the years. I remember watching videos with like back when I was in college or late college or something like that. Like I think 2016 or so, and just yeah, to see him and meet him 9 years after I was first watching his videos was just an awesome experience. Again, not a funny story, but one that it's just cool that the game is so compelling that it can draw people who play some of the best media that there is today. I mean, I think, if there's a great single player game experience, I'm pretty sure Nakey Jakey has played it, but instead Counter Strike's gripped him and his attention and gripped his friends' attention, and so it's fun to chat about that kind of stuff with people that have just varied backgrounds.
Absolutely. And just how Counter-Strike brings people together. Like, my first event was Copenhagen that I went to. And then the second one I ever went to was the Austin Major. And that's kind of after I started like making some more friends on like Twitter. I got involved in Twitter and stuff like that. And like just to meet all of the people there, like that was a crazy event. And to just have a place where, especially in NA, I mean, we're so deprived of majors, obviously, it goes without saying, but to have everybody kind of coming together in one place and just like it was like a giant group of friends in that arena. Like it was absolutely phenomenal. I can't believe the game can bring
Yeah.
people together like that.
Actually, now that I remember one thing from the after party that actually would not be overstepping to say this one. It was just a little funny moment. It was like when so when Vitality won in Austin, and then they were at the after party, they got a couple big bottles of champagne, and I remember that just by virtue of where we were standing, Rebecca and I, my girlfriend, we were just kind of standing chatting with some people, and Apex, of course, just that's the moment we're standing near Vitality is when he's just shaking the bottle, pops it all over us.
Oh,
Legitimately, we both just got completely soaked by champagne, and so my girlfriend isn't gonna just take that, so she's like, "All right, you pour it on us. You're definitely gonna pour some drinks too. Then you can't just put it on us." And so Apex kind of like, it kind of probably like brought down his mood a little bit because he's just celebrating without a care in hell. But then he does indeed pour us a couple of champagnes and just have a brief chat. It was just a fun moment in general. Yeah.
that's awesome. It's just the little things like that you got to appreciate, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I got to celebrate in the revelry as well.
Hell yeah, man. So that was the last question I had for you for the outro of the podcast. I like to just shine the spotlight over to the guest. If there's any shout outs you want to give, anything you want to say to the audience, or anything you just want to say before we sign off here, then the floor is yours. Have at her.
Well, first of all, I would say thanks and keep it up. I feel like the you've amassed a pretty healthy catalog of influencers in this space that have really, I mean, it's legitimately impressive the amount of people that you've interviewed at this point. So
I
keep on
appreciate that.
persisting with that. Hope it leads you somewhere. Hopefully, some you get something real tangible out of this, if not just the experiences. And I would say that there's a likelihood that some people that are watching this now are probably targeting some kind of broadcast role. And I would just say that just don't limit yourself to one thing. I feel like it's been proven over multiple people that if you simply just try to commentate tier two and you hope that is what's going to get you to the big leagues, then expand like that you I was competing in tier two. I was making videos. I connected with Thorin, and that already took me years to possibly get to where I am today. And you look at some of the other figures that are in the space that have staying power. People like Launders also has a great YouTube channel. You look at people that are just hanging on, and I don't think it's by no means a coincidence that a lot of the guys either have a podcast that's successful, have a YouTube channel, have their own solo content that's successful. And so make sure you're not just keying in on the one thing. Even a live example of somebody that's on the rise is that I feel like Fi put himself on the map
Yes.
by having a huge YouTube channel that really slingshotted him ahead of the other tier two commentators. And I myself earmarked Fi to be a guy that from the North American space to come up for sure, but he took a step away from tier two broadcast so he could focus on the building the YouTube out. And then when he comes back to the broadcast work, oh, ideally you can do both simultaneously, but if you can't and you feel like it's too much work for you, Fi did take some less gigs for a stretch of time to build that out, and look at the how it's paid off for him. Now every comment section is just exploding with his name every time he gets hired for an event. The TOs do see that stuff. So try to make yourself a marketable person beyond just having pure raw broadcast ability.
Alrighty, guys, that'll do it for today. Awesome time with Maui. He gets a lot of shit sometimes, but I don't know, man. I think he does a great job, and it was a pleasure to host him and to have him, lend me his time, especially early in the morning before he starts co-streaming IEM Krakow, whatever. I mean, means a lot for him to cut me into his schedule. So thank you very much, Maui, for that, and thank you all for watching today's episode. That's pretty much all we have for you guys today, so make sure you like the video if you haven't already, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you guys next Friday with another banger episode. Till next time, everybody.